Okay, welcome. Welcome to session number 232 of Kevin Reads A Course in Miracles. All righty. And today we are beginning chapter 30, which is the next to last chapter. All right. Chapter 30 is entitled The New Beginning. And we will just go right into the introduction and we'll see what happens. All right, the introduction, the new beginning. The new beginning now becomes the focus of the curriculum. The goal is clear, but now you need specific methods for attaining it. The speed by which it can be reached depends upon one thing alone: your willingness to practice every step. Each one will help a little every time it is attempted, and together will these steps lead you from dreams of judgment to forgiving dreams and out of pain and fear. They are not new to you, but they are more ideas than rules of thought to you as yet. So now we need to practice them a while, until they are rules by which you live. We seek to make them habits now, so you will have them ready for whatever need. Okay, so the new beginning, seeing things in a corrected vision. Dr. Wapnick would always say to see the goal becomes to see that there are no separate interests. In other words, we're not separate. All right, there are no separate interests. So the goal is clear. We want to be in touch with the oneness. All right, we want to wake up to that. That was the last chapter, the awakening. All right. And now this new beginning, this new way of seeing things, is the focus of the curriculum. Right? And he says the speed by which the goal is reached depends on the practice. Right? It reminds me of years and years ago, I was taking Taoist lessons, all right? And the teacher, the master was teaching, and he said something very succinct. He said, everything is theory until you practice. So everything that he was teaching, he says, you can read about it, you can think about it, it's all theory until you do it and you realize it works. Right? You have the experience of it. So, your willingness to practice every step. All right? And together will these steps lead you from dreams of judgment, which is where we exist now. All right? They'll lead you from the dreams of judgment to the forgiving dreams and out of pain and fear. All right? The more and more we practice this, the more we enter that state of forgiving dreams, which means we're still here within the dream, but it's different. Our experience of it is different. Right? We're not judging. Right? We're not judging ourselves, and we're not projecting the judgment onto anybody else. Okay? So they become forgiving dreams. Right. So we seek to make them habits now, so you will have them ready for whatever the need is. All right. So the more we practice these things, the more it becomes a habit. So, Section 1, the rules for decision. decisions are continuous. You do not always know when you're making them. But with a little practice with the ones you recognize, a set begins to form which sees you through the rest. It is not wise to let yourself become preoccupied with every step you take. The proper set, adopted consciously each time you wake, will put you well ahead. And if you find resistance strong and dedication weak, you're not ready. Do not fight yourself. But think about the kind of day you want and tell yourself there is a way in which this very day can happen just like that. Then try again to have the day you want. The outlook starts with this. All right, that's the beginning of the second paragraph. All right. But in that first paragraph, he reminds us decisions are continuous. Every moment of every day. In another section of the text, he says, you are but reliving the moment when terror took the place of love. So in every moment of the day, we are making a decision. Do I believe I'm separate, or do I want to experience the oneness? All right. But as he says, you don't always know when you're making them. So give yourself a break. You're not always aware of making these decisions. He says, but with a little practice, with the ones you recognize, a set begins to form, which sees you through the rest. And this word set, we can take that to mean a mindset. All right, the set is a mathematical term and a psychological term. Right? But so we can make a mindset, we can make a set of thoughts. Right? And then he reminds us, now you don't have to think about every move you're making. As Dr. Wapnick said, you don't have to analyze the way you're buttering your toast or anything like that. Just have your toast and move on. So it's not wise to let yourself become preoccupied with every step you take. The proper set, adopted consciously each time you wake, will put you well ahead. All right, so you start your day, and this will put you well ahead. All right? It'll put you right on the path. And if you feel the dedication is weak, you're not ready. So don't fight it. Right? Don't pretend. Don't make believe. Right? Oh, this is what I should be doing. Just notice that you're resisting. Then try again to have the day you want. Right? I mean, even if I wake up and I want to start my day with this first step, this first rule, so to speak, I might wake up and say, oh, I'm not going to do it today. I don't want to do it today. I'm tired. I didn't sleep right. My toe hurts. Whatever. He says, don't fight yourself. Just notice. Just notice the resistance. And do not judge yourself for it either. He says, then, after a while, you could try again to have the day that you want. And what kind of day is that? You know, he's not talking about, oh, this is the day I'm going to hit the lottery. Right? This is the day that the relationship I was looking for is going to come to fruition. This is the day I get my raise. Right? This is the day somebody tells me, here, you can have this car. All right? This is not the day where things in form are supposed to work out. All right? It's not about specifics. All right? The outlook starts with this. paragraph 2. Today I will make no decisions by myself. This means that you are choosing not to be the judge of what to do. But it must also mean you will not judge the situations where you will be called upon to make response. For if you judge them, you have set the rules for how you should react to them. And then another answer cannot but produce confusion and uncertainty and fear. All right. And I'll go on to the third paragraph. It says, this is your major problem now. You still make up your mind and then decide to ask what you should do. And what you hear may not resolve the problem as you saw at first. This leads to fear because it contradicts what you perceive, and so you feel attacked and therefore angry. There are rules by which this will not happen, but it does not occur at first while you are learning how to hear. Right? And what he means, we're learning how to hear without our specialness needs. Like he says, you make up your mind about how you want the day to be. Oh, I want, this is the day when I help my friend overcome whatever ailment or whatever situation it is. Right? That's a specific. Right? We're setting ourselves up for it not happening, and then we become angry. This doesn't work. Jesus is full of it. This is crazy. And we just, because we got caught up in our special needs. Right? This is not about form. Right? This is about choosing with our inner guide and help me to see this correctly. Help me to see through the eyes of truth. What is beyond the form. All right? So today I will make no decisions by myself. All right? This means you're choosing not to be the judge of what to do. All right? But it must also mean that you will not judge the situations where you're called upon to make response. For if you judge them, you have set the rules for how you should react. And then another answer cannot but produce confusion. And he says, and this is what you do. You first decide, well, this is the right thing. This is what would be the right thing to do, the right thing to happen. As I read over these words, and there's an ambulance or a siren that's for one of our students, Dale. That siren is for you. All right. It's to make you think I will make no decisions by myself. Okay. All right. So what it's reminding me of is that forget this world, forget this course, and come with holy open arms, open hands unto your God. In other words, try to put everything down. Right. What I think needs to be done, what needs to be said, what needs to be experienced. Right. And just ask, help me to see the world through the eyes of truth. In that way, you're not making the decision by yourself of what to experience and how to interpret it. Okay. And we just have to become aware of, when I decided what was right, and then say, oh wait, and he's going to address all these things. All right. Right, when he says this is your major problem, you still make up your mind and then decide to ask what you should do. And what you hear may not resolve the problem as you saw it first. All right? It might not answer what you think is the problem. All right? And this leads to fear because it contradicts what you perceive. And so you feel attacked and therefore angry. He's not listening to me. This course doesn't work. Right? There are rules by which this will not happen. Right? But it does occur at first while you're learning how to hear. Right? I mean, even that is being very gentle with yourself. Jesus is being very gentle. Saying you're going to just notice when you've decided what's right, what's wrong, and how it should be handled, and what has to be handled. All right. So throughout the day, at any time, paragraph 4, throughout the day, at any time you think of it and have a quiet moment for reflection, tell yourself again the kind of day you want, the feelings you would have, the things you want to happen to you, and the things you would experience, and say, if I make no decisions by myself, this is the day that will be given me. These two procedures, practiced well, will serve to let you be directed without fear, for opposition will not first arise and then become a problem in itself. So throughout the day, every time you think of it, right, and you have a quiet moment for reflection, so throughout the day, every time you think of it, what kind of day do I want? All through the text, Jesus will remind us of what you really want. What you really want is peace of mind. So that's basically the kind of day I really want. I want a day when I experience peace. Right? Because when the mind is at peace, there is joy, there is happiness. All these, I always say that the peace is the fertile ground. It's like a garden. And in the garden grows the joy and the happiness. And the sense of safety and all the good things. All right, that's what I want to experience during the day. That's the kind of day I want to have. I want to have that day where my mind is at peace. All right. So throughout the day, anytime you think of it and have a quiet moment, tell yourself again the kind of day you want. Feelings you would have, the things you want to happen to you, right? And the things you would experience, and say, the things I want to happen to me are reflections of peace and love and oneness. Right? I'm not, talking about things in form. I'm going to hit the number. So tell yourself what the things you want to happen to you and the things you would experience, and say, if I make no decisions by myself, this is the day that will be given me. These two procedures, practiced well, will serve to let you be directed without fear, for opposition will not first arise, and then become a problem in itself. So today I will make no decisions by myself. If I make no decisions by myself, this is the day that will be given me. All right. Paragraph 5. It's going to become clearer as we go along. I'm trying not to be too verbose because it's a long section. But paragraph 5, but there will still be times when you have judged already. Now the answer will provoke attack unless you quickly straighten out your mind to want an answer that will work. Be certain this has happened if you feel yourself unwilling to sit by and ask to have the answer given you. This means you have decided for yourself and cannot see the question. Now you need a quick restorative before you can ask again. All right. Jesus knows the way the ego mind works. All right. But there will be times when you have judged already. And now the answer will provoke attack. See, when I have judged already, I think I know what has to be done. I think I know what the conclusion should be, what the outcome should be, as if I know everybody's path and what's good for everybody. Right? He says, but there'll be times when you have judged, that's the way you are. This is because you sunk back into that making decisions with the ego mind. Right? Now the answer from the right mind will provoke attack. You say, oh, that's nonsense, BS. Always telling me to just look through the eyes of peace. And I get fearful. I think I know what the answer should be. So I try to take control instead of just letting the truth arise in my mind. This is because when that happens, the answer will provoke an attack unless you quickly straighten out your mind to want an answer that will work. And an answer that will work will come from the foundation of peace. All right? We enter the mind very quickly. That's what he's talking about, a restorative. Like Dr. Wapnick would always say, well, can you say help? All right. Help me to see correctly. All right. And when we visit that place in the mind, that right mind, that the part of the mind that remembers who we are and everything about us, the answer comes and it will surround the specific that we think we're in. Okay. Be certain this has happened if you feel yourself unwilling to sit by and ask to have the answer given you. So if I always equate it with the idea of control. I have to be in control of the situation. You know, man, maybe Jesus don't know what has to be done. All right? Then that means I'm unwilling to sit by for that instant and ask to have the answer given me, to let the truth come through me, to let the love come through me and descend on the situation. Right? To let the peace come through me and descend on the situation. This means you've decided by yourself. If you're unwilling to sit by and wait a second. This means you have decided for yourself and cannot see the question. Now you need a quick restorative before you can ask again. All right, paragraph 6. Remember once again the day you want, and recognize that something has occurred that is not a part of that, a part of it. Then realize that you have asked the question by yourself and must have set an answer in your terms. And then say, remind yourself, wait, I have no question. I forgot what to decide. This cancels out the terms that you have set and lets the answer show you what the question must have really been. All right, so we're canceling out the specifics, and it gives us an opportunity to see what the question really was, which was, help me to see this through the eyes of truth. What does peace look like? Right? So you tell yourself, look, I don't even know what the question is. Right? I forgot what to decide. Right? It's kind of like resets. It resets your mind. Right? He says, try to observe this rule, paragraph 7. Try to observe this rule without delay, despite your opposition. For you've already gotten angry, and your fear of being answered in a different way from what your version of the question asks will gain momentum, until you believe the day you want is one in which you get your answer to your question. And you will not get it, for it would destroy the day by robbing you of what you really want. This can be very hard to realize when once you have decided by yourself the rules that promise you a happy day. Yet this decision can still be undone by simple methods that you can accept. All right? And the mind works very quickly. Right? We think we know what has to be done. Right? And so, I think I'm asking, help me with this situation. And if it doesn't work out the way I think it's supposed to be working out, he goes, well, now you're getting angry. Right? Your fear of being answered in a different way from your version of the question will gain momentum, until you believe the day you want is one in which you get your answer to your question. Right? Help me, my loved one is sick. Help her to get better. Help him to get better. Right? I want my answer to my question. How can I help them get better? And you might not get that answer, and it's going to rob your day of what you really want, which is peace of mind. Right? But I have to let go of that control. I have to let go of that idea of what peace of mind looks like. Oh, this is what peace of mind would look like. And then if it doesn't happen, I get all bent out of shape. I'm all upset, because my preconceived notion of what peace would be has not been fulfilled. Right? And if you don't get it, it will destroy the day by robbing you of what you really want. And as Jesus always tells us, I know what you really want. You really want peace of mind. Right? And he says this whole dynamic can be very hard to realize when once you have decided by yourself the rules that promise you a happy day. This will be a happy day if this happens, if I get that job, if I get that promotion, if I get that relationship, if this person answers my text, and whatever it is. So this can be very hard to realize when once you have decided by yourself the rules that promise you a happy day. And yet, this decision can still be undone by simple methods. All right? Simple methods that you can accept. So, in paragraph 8, he's going to help us out again. He says, look, if that's the state you're in, if you are so unwilling to receive that you cannot even let your question go, you can begin to change your mind with this. At least I could decide I do not like what I feel right now. All right? at least I can admit that much. I don't like the way I feel. All right. This much is obvious, and it paves the way for the next easy step. So he says that could be very obvious. At least I don't like the way I feel. All right, this is not working out. And then you try to come back to your path, and you say, well, at least I know I don't like the way I feel. In paragraph 9, having decided that you do not like the way you feel, what could be easier than to continue with, and so I hope I have been wrong? Think about that. I think this would bring me peace. I think this would bring me happiness. I think this is the day I want. Help me with that, Jesus. And it's not going my way. Now I'm all bent out of shape. And I'm getting really angry, and the momentum is building. All right? He says you could still undo the feeling by saying, at least I know I don't like the way I feel. All right? And so I hope I've been wrong. I hope I made the wrong decision, to ask the wrong guy to help me. So I hope I've been wrong in deciding what kind of day it should be. Right? And so I hope I have been wrong. At least I can decide I do not feel what I feel now, and so I hope I have been wrong. Paragraph 9, sentence 3. This works against the sense of opposition and reminds you that help is not being thrust upon you, but is something that you want and that you need because you do not like the way you feel. This tiny opening will be enough to let you go ahead with just a few more steps you need to let yourself be helped. Right? So this tiny step of saying, I don't like the way I feel, and so I hope I was wrong. He says that just gives a little opening. Right? He says that tiny opening will be enough to let you go ahead with just a few more steps to let yourself be helped. Paragraph 10. Now you have reached the turning point because it has occurred to you that you will gain if what you have decided is not so. Until this point is reached, you will believe your happiness depends on being right. But this much reason have you now attained. You would be better off if you were wrong. Right? That old famous Course saying, would you rather be right or happy? Right? Until this point is reached, where you could say, all right, I don't like the way I feel, so I hope I've been wrong. He says that's the turning point. Because it has occurred to you that you will gain if what you have decided is not so. All right? You will gain, you will move toward the peaceful day. All right? If what you decided is not so. Right? Until that point is reached, you will believe your happiness depends on being right. My happiness depends on this outcome. Right? But this much reason have you now attained. You would be better off if you were wrong. All right? Sometimes I say that to myself, and sometimes I say that to friends when they're talking about their frame of mind, their thoughts, and even mostly their thoughts about themselves. Because we do a lot of projecting onto ourselves. And when having this conversation with a friend, sometimes I'll stop and say, but just try to remember, you could be wrong. Oh, I'm this, I'm that. I always do this. I said, well, you could be wrong, right? And you'd be better off if you were wrong. That's what Jesus is telling us. When we insist it's supposed to be this way, he says, well, you'd be better off if you were wrong. Right? In paragraph 11, this tiny grain of wisdom will suffice to take you further. Right? This tiny grain of wisdom. Right? I'll be better off if I was wrong. Maybe I was wrong. This tiny grain of wisdom will suffice to take you further. You are not coerced, but merely hope to get a thing you want. And you can say in perfect honesty, I want another way to look at this. Right? First you think, this is the way it's supposed to be. It's not happening. And you gather yourself and say, wait a second, I just don't like the way I feel. I hope I was wrong. And then you take that breath. You say, yeah, I'd be better off if I was wrong. And so I want another way to look at this instead of the way I'm insisting on it. I want another way to look at this. Sentence 5, paragraph 11. Now you have changed your mind about the day, and you have remembered what you really want. Its purpose has no longer been obscured by the insane belief you want it for the goal of being right when you are wrong. Thus is the readiness for asking brought to your awareness. For you cannot be in conflict when you ask for what you want, and see that it is this for which you ask. All right. So he says, in other words, we're clearing the decks, so to speak. Right? We're erasing the blackboard, and we're remembering. I want another way to look at this. Clearing it all out. And thus is the readiness for asking brought to your awareness. Right. For you cannot be in conflict when you ask for what you want and see that it is this for which you ask. Right. You can't be in conflict when you think this is what peace looks like. You insist on it. You be right. Right. So I say, I really want a different way to look at this. Paragraph 12. This final step is but acknowledgement of a lack of opposition to be helped. It is a statement of an open mind, not certain yet, but willing to be shown. All right. Perhaps there is another way to look at this. What can I lose by asking? Thus, you now can ask a question that makes sense, and so the answer will make sense as well. Nor will you fight against it, for you see that it is you who will be helped by it. Right? Perhaps there is another way to look at this. What can I lose by asking? Help me to see correctly. Paragraph 13. Or is there anything I missed here? All right. So the final step is but an acknowledgement of a lack of opposition to be helped. I'm willing to be shown. I'm willing to see the truth. I'm willing to see the innocence. I'm willing to see the oneness. I'm just willing for the truth to arise in my mind. Perhaps there's another way to look at this. What can I lose by asking? Thus, you now can ask a question that makes sense, And so the answer will make sense as well. Nor will you fight against it. For you see that it is you who will be helped by it. 13. It must be clear that it is easier to have a happy day if you prevent unhappiness from entering at all. But this takes practice. This takes practice in the rules that will protect you from the ravages of fear. When this has been achieved, the sorry dream of judgment has forever been undone. But meanwhile, you have need for practicing the rules for its undoing. Let us then consider once again the very first of these decisions which are offered here. Right? So just to go over that again, it must be clear that it is easier to have a happy day if you prevent unhappiness from entering at all. Yeah, that's clear. How do I do that? Right? But then he says, but this takes practice with the rules we just went over. I don't want to make any decisions by myself. I don't want to decide what's good, what's bad. Help me to see correctly. Help me to see this another way. That's the original question or the original statement of Dr. William Thetford to Dr. Helen Schuckman as they were driving or going to the departmental meeting of the psychology department at Columbia University. And their own personal relationship was filled with bickering, and the departmental relationships were, all bickering and, competitiveness. And Bill Thetford was just tired of it. And he said, there must be a better way. There must be a better way of communicating. Right. And that was the opening. That was perhaps there's another way to look at this. Right? I want another way to look at this. Right? Because he already decided the way he was looking at it was wrong. And that's the impetus for the Course in Miracles. There must be a better way. And Dr. Schuckman agreed with him. She said, yes, and I will help you find it. Bang, zoom, as they say. The beginning of the Course in Miracles. Helen Schuckman started experiencing all kinds of dreams, vivid dreams, psychic dreams, and until a few months down the road, she thought she was having a psychotic break when she was hearing this inner voice, so to speak, which she said sounded, it was like a voice that said, "This is a Course in Miracles. Please take notes." All right. And she discussed it with Dr. Thetford, and he says, well, maybe we just see what the voice has to say, and take the notes, and we'll talk about it. You take the notes, and we'll look at them when you're done. And they did this for 7 years. All right. And then we had the text of the Course in Miracles. All right. So I know I digressed, but in paragraph 13, he said, it must be clear that it is easier to have a happy day if you prevent the unhappiness from entering at all. By starting the day saying, today I make no decisions by myself. I want to step aside from my ego. But this takes practice. It takes practice in the rules that will protect you from the ravages of fear. And when this has been achieved, the sorry dream of judgment has forever been undone. But meanwhile, you have need for practicing the rules for its undoing. Let us then consider once again the very first of these decisions which are offered here. Paragraph 14. We said you can begin a happy day with the determination not to make decisions by yourself. This seems to be a decision in itself, and yet you cannot make decisions by yourself. The only question really is with what you choose to make them. That is really all. The first rule, then, is not coercion, but merely a simple statement of a simple fact. You will not make decisions by yourself, whatever you decide, for they are made with idols or with God. You can ask help of Antichrist or Christ, and which you choose will join with you and tell you what to do. All right? It's like, once again, Dr. Wapnick would say, there's no neutral gear. All right? It's either forward or reverse. It's one thing or the other. You're always making decisions with a guide. Am I asking idols to be my guide? Am I asking the ego thought system to be my guide, the Antichrist? Right? Am I asking something other than who I truly am to be my guide? Or am I asking the Christ to be my guide? Am I asking the Christ in me, help me to see correctly? Help me to look at this a different way. Walk me along the path. All right? He says you make no decisions by yourself. Whatever it is you think you're doing. Whatever you've decided. For they are made with idols or with God. And you ask the help of Antichrist or Christ. And which would you choose? And which you choose will join with you and tell you what to do. All right? He says it's that simple. All right? What's not simple is being vigilant for it. And he says, look, you don't have to think about every step you're taking and going up and down the stairs. You never get up and down the stairs that way. Just be the thoughts you're aware of. That's where we begin. The thoughts I'm aware of. Right. I want to see this correctly. And like he said, if you're really having a hard time, at least you could say, all I know is I don't feel right. I don't feel good. I'm angry. I'm afraid. I'm depressed. And so I must have decided wrongly, which means I must have asked the ego to be my guide. And so maybe there's a different way. So I hope I've been wrong. And maybe there's a different way to look at this. And so I go back in and say, help me. And I ask the Christ in me to be my guide. Just help me to see this correctly. All right? And which you choose will join with you and tell you what to do. Paragraph 15. Your day is not at random. It is set by what you choose to live it with, and how the friend whose counsel you have sought perceives your happiness. You always ask advice before you can decide on anything. Let this be understood, and you can see there cannot be coercion here, nor grounds for opposition that you may be free. There is no freedom from what must occur. And if you think there is, you must be wrong. There is no freedom from what must occur. If I'm asking the ego to be my guide, if I'm asking idols to show me where my happiness is, he says there's no freedom from what will occur. You go through this world the way, bouncing off one thing after another, looking for love in all the wrong places, as the song goes. Right? Or if I ask the Christ in me to be my guide, he says that's what will occur also. What kind of day, all right? Whose kingdom is the world for you today? All right, but we'll go back to 15, sentence 5. There is no freedom from what must occur. It's inevitable. You either be directed by the thought of separation or the thought of oneness, the thought of the Christ. Okay? So, the second rule as well is but a fact. And that second rule, once again, is if I make no decisions by myself, this is the day that will be given me. All right, so he says that's but a fact. For you and your advisor must agree on what you want before it can occur. All right. So I must agree on what I want with my advisor. Do I want to believe in separation, or do I want to experience the oneness? For you and your advisor must agree on what you want before it can occur. It is but this agreement that permits all things to happen. Nothing can be caused without some form of union, be it with a dream of judgment or the voice for God. Decisions cause results because they are not made in isolation. They are made by you and your advisor, for yourself and for the world as well. The day you want, you offer to the world, for it will be what you have asked for and will reinforce the rule of your advisor in the world. Whose kingdom is the world for you today? What kind of day will you decide to have? Right? Now, Jesus touches on the idea of the one mind. Our thoughts affect the thoughts of all the world. Put it that way. All right? We're either reinforcing the belief in separation, all right, or we're reinforcing the voice for God that says you never left. You never left. Everything's okay. This is for you and your advisor must agree on what you want before it can occur. All right? Sentence 4, paragraph 16. Nothing can be caused without some form of union. So either we unite with the thought of separation, the dream of judgment, right? Or we unite with the voice for God, which we call the Holy Spirit, the memory of who you are. All right. He says, and then because he says nothing happens without some form of union. And once you've made the union, stuff happens. All right. Decisions cause results because they are not made in isolation. Right. They are made by you and your advisor, for yourself and for the world as well, because the mind is one. Right. In my mind, if I'm joining with the voice for God, it's reinforcing the idea of innocence, the idea of the atonement. You never left the mind of God. It's reinforcing that idea in the one mind that believes it's separate. All right. So decisions cause results because they're not made in isolation. They are made by you and your advisor, for yourself and for the world. The day you want, you offer to the world. Do I want a day of peace? This is what I'm offering to the world. This is what I'm offering to the one mind. I want to escape from the dream of judgment. The day you want, you offer to the world, for it will be what you have asked for. And it will reinforce the rule of your advisor in the world. It will reinforce the rule of peace. It will reinforce the idea that you never left the mind of God. You are always safe. There is nothing to fear. It will reinforce all that in the world. So whose kingdom is the world for you today? That kingdom of judgment or the kingdom of oneness? What kind of day will you decide to have? Paragraph 17. It needs but two who would have happiness this day to promise it to all the world. It needs but two to understand they cannot decide alone, to guarantee the joy they ask for will be wholly shared. For they have understood the basic law that makes decision powerful and gives it all effects that it will ever have. It needs but two. These two are joined before there can be a decision. Let this be the one reminder that you keep in mind, and you will have the day you want and give it to the world by having it yourself. Your judgment has been lifted from the world by your decision for a happy day. And as you have received, so must you give. Right? So it just takes the two. And we're not talking about another person. We're talking about you and your true self. You and the voice for God. You and the Holy Spirit. Right? It needs but two who would have happiness. Those are the two that would have happiness. The Holy Spirit, the memory of who you are, the voice for God, all those things, your true self, that's who would have happiness and have me experience it. It needs but two. Right? To have happiness this day, to promise it to the world. It needs but two to understand they cannot decide alone. To guarantee the joy they ask for will be wholly shared. All right. I will join with my true self. I'll join with the voice for God, the Christ, all those things. And it will guarantee the joy they ask for will be wholly shared. It will be shared by the one mind. For they have understood the basic law that makes decision powerful, gives it all effects that it will ever have. It needs but two. That's the basic law. It needs but two. These two are joined before there can be a decision. Let this be the one reminder that you keep in mind, and you will have the day you want and give it to the world by having it yourself. Right? So I take responsibility for my happiness. I'm willing to be shown what happiness looks like. Right? I've not decided already what it is. I'm asking my higher self, the Christ in me, to rise up and show me what is happiness, what is peace. And you will have the day you want and give it to the world by having it. Your judgment has been lifted from the world by your decision for a happy day. If I've decided to join with my higher self, with the Christ in me, with the Holy Spirit, judgment has been lifted from the world. I don't want to see the world through the eyes of judgment. All right. And as you have received, so we receive this other way of seeing, of perceiving, that's what we give. All right. We will give this awareness throughout the world. And it begins, once again, by saying, I will not make any decisions by myself. And then Jesus says, well, basically you can't. You're only going to decide with the ego or with the voice for God. All right? And if you find yourself all mixed up, and we can correct ourselves. Look, there are so many times in the past 30 years, I remember just saying to Jesus, look, Jesus, I don't even know what the question is anymore. I'm that confused. All right? I'm that mixed up. I know I don't feel good. Mentally, I don't feel right. I don't even know what the question is. All right? And Jesus puts it, in much better ways than I do. So he says, so you just continue. So maybe I've been wrong. Maybe I made the wrong choice. I asked the wrong teacher. All right? Maybe there's another way of looking at the world, because I know I don't feel right and I don't know what the question is. So can you help me? Help me to see the world correctly. There must be a better way of looking at it. And he says, practice these things, this set of thoughts. Practice this set of thoughts, this mindset. And he says, and you will find yourself traveling out of the dream of judgment. You will experience the dream of judgment less and less. And you will be more and more in what we call the happy dream, the dream of forgiveness. Forgiving dreams, he called it at the end of the last chapter. We will enter the forgiving dreams because that's what we want. I want peace of mind. I want happiness. Help me to see it. Okay? And he says, adopt this set of rules. Make this a mindset. When you notice you're not having the day you want, you go back and say, okay, let me reset. Maybe I asked the wrong teacher. All right, but what I really want is peace of mind. All right. And you give up that idea of what peace is. You just want to experience it. Show me. All right. Show me what it looks like. And he says, and by doing that, your judgment has been lifted from the world. And as you have received, so must you give. All right. This peace, this love, this happiness will come through you, will come through your mind, and it will touch the world. Then. Okay. Thank you for being here. And I hope you like my Terrapin Station shirt as much as I do. I'll see you soon. Bye.